Today on Community Connections, we have Christian Fuscarino from Garden State Equality. Thanks for coming over.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We met once before at a movie premiere in Asbury Park. And she's out there now, so I think we should embarrass her. Our Robin Camp, who is our director of the show.
Yes.
It was a really good movie.
It was a beautiful, moving story about love that you don't typically see in the mainstream.
Well, so people know, because I'm trying to get her to come on, or at least, I shouldn't say at least, to get the two women to come on. Story of two women. One was married, one wasn't. They met, a love affair developed between them, and they ended up getting married in Ocean Grove when they were well into their older years. I don't remember how old they were. I met both of them. They're I think both in their 80s now, but.
Well, I hope so, or else you might be in trouble when you have them on.
Maybe I shouldn't talk about their age then. But it really, I mean, I found the movie provocative because it made me think about how hard it must have been. When I grew up, it was unthinkable that somebody was openly gay when I was in high school. But that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, I think what the film did well is it illustrated a storyline that is all too familiar for older gay and lesbian individuals who, in so many cases, have lived double lives or have lived one life and then got to a point where they were comfortable enough to live the life that they were born to live. And so one of the women who was in a heterosexual marriage, married to a man, was living this life because that was the societal norm that was expected of her. And that happens in our community so often. And then they got to a point where she could be comfortable and she could be with a woman, someone that she's genuinely in love with. And so that's why I appreciate this film so much. Love Wins, the name of the film. I appreciate it so much because it's one example of many, many stories that exist within America from gay and lesbian individuals.
You just told me something that never occurred to me, that one of the things Garden State Equality does is it goes into senior housing. I assume that means everything from senior housing projects to over 55 communities to talk about equality and talk about compassion for others.
Yeah, the new frontier, I think, for the LGBT movement, even though it's going in many different directions, all directions on issues that aren't necessarily sexy, like marriage equality was. People aren't going to change their Facebook profile picture to a rainbow over older adult sensitivity training. The White House isn't going to turn rainbow because a kid's not being bullied in school, but they're still very important issues. And so as we enter this new space as an LGBT organization, we are learning a lot, and we're learning how best to develop the curriculum to work with staff at older adult homes. And the issue here is abuse already exists in older adult communities. It's an unfortunate reality. And what we want to do is make sure that older adults, as they age, they don't need to go back into the closet because they're scared that the worker that's bathing them at night or feeding them in the morning is going to abuse them simply because they are uncomfortable with their, the client's sexual orientation. So this training is going to help them better understand how to work with the unique needs of LGBT seniors.
How long have you, now I didn't even ask this, what is your job title now?
So I'm the executive director of this great organization called Garden State Equality. It's the largest LGBT organization in New Jersey. And
Let's stop for a second. L, because there are people, I guarantee you, who L, lesbian, gay, LGB, bisexual, T, transgender?
Transgender, so LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. It's the alphabet community.
Okay. Now, you talked about the statistics on violence against transgender kids is staggering. It's a very scary
Yeah,
number.
yeah.
I get the impression that kids can make it through most public high schools now and be gay. It's not 40 years, I'm out of high school a little bit more than 40 years. Unthinkable then. I didn't meet anybody who was openly gay till I went to college. And even then, most people suppressed that. They didn't want anybody else to know. I know kids in Long Branch go through, or other high schools, a lot more comfortable with it than they were 40 years ago. But transgender, you read the statistics, they're scary.
So transgender students definitely face higher statistics of bullying, higher rates of suicide,
Right.
higher rates of homelessness.
Harder for parents to accept and tolerate.
Yeah, and we need to be talking about what more we can do for transgender students. But I just want to mention that the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, just did a study on LGBT youth, and the rates of bullying among lesbian, gay, and bisexual children are still way too high. The rates of suicide are way too high. So we need to lift up all of
Not as
our
open
youth.
as I might think it is then.
No, I think you've probably done a great job here in Long Branch.
Not me. I can't take credit for it, but I just because I know of kids who are open about it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm assuming too much.
I don't want to say it's an assumption. I think that you should, sit down with the youth and maybe have a conversation with them. From what I understand, the staff and administrators, and I think you're being very humble, and the community that you've created here
Thank you.
has probably contributed to a culture within the school system where lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth can feel more comfortable. And like I said, we need to do so much more for young transgender people.
Do you think now marriage equality has become the law of the land? Although, over the last couple of days, the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court had to get the boot because he refused to allow people to serve under him to sign marriage licenses. He thought he could avoid the law or that he was above it. But now that marriage equality is essentially the law of the land, that's not enough. Fair statement? It's not enough?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just one aspect of the rights that are owed to LGBT people. Just like straight people can get married, that's a benefit.
Right.
But
Health insurance from your spouse?
Exactly. Health insurance.
Inheritance.
You go to school. Property rights.
Right.
Serving in the military as a transgender person who's open. There's still there's so many different issues. From a woman who wants to get artificial insemination from their insurance provider and get it covered without having to prove that they are infertile, or who have tried having sex with a man, or a transgender person who breaks their arm and can't get covered for surgery because transitional surgery leaves this loophole that's open within the healthcare industry.
Stop there for a second.
Sure.
Breaking of arm transgender surgery, what's the connection between the two that you don't get covered?
So right now, there's no regulation in New Jersey that requires insurance companies to cover transitional surgery for trans individuals.
Okay.
That unfortunately opens up this loophole where if a trans individual needs surgery for anything, there's been cases where an insurance provider has dropped that trans individual. So we want to make sure that there is regulation in place that
if
doesn't
somebody's
allow that.
working for the city of Long Branch, has health insurance, tries to get the surgery and the treatment to transition from male to female or female to male, and they get injured in some other way, they may not be covered?
Well, you know what, Mayor, I'm so glad that you asked that, because you can make sure that health benefits are extended to your employees. In Jersey City, Mayor Stephen Fulop, he made sure that all health benefits across the board are extended to their trans employees. So you can do that at a municipal level right now.
How do you do that without invading someone's privacy? Because I'm going to say, I know people going through the transition. None of them work for the city, but that would be something somebody may not want to talk about too much.
Well,
How would I find out, or how do I accomplish that?
Well, I appreciate your sensitivity. You should never go up to anyone and assume that they're transitioning their gender,
Right.
or you should never assume someone's lesbian, gay, or bisexual either.
Right.
So if they disclose that information, you can certainly, well, I think you can start by just instituting a policy that's across the board, so that if there's a trans individual, they know where to access the resources as a city worker in Long Branch to get coverage, and you wouldn't necessarily need to know that they're accessing those resources.
Okay. All right. How long have you been the executive director of Garden State Equality? You're the third one I've met.
Okay. I know I've got some big shoes to fill. I'm sure you've met some great people, especially my predecessor, Andy Bowen. I've been on duty since April, and we're slowly working on these new issues that are far beyond marriage equality. Would you like me to tell you a little
Sure.
bit? So we have an anti-bullying arm. So we have a staff person that's in schools every single day during the week doing trainings with teachers and students. We are working with the state on making sure that there's more coverage in the healthcare space. Like we talked about earlier, we're developing a sensitivity training for older adult homes. We are working on this new program called Map and Expand, where you identify LGBT-friendly healthcare providers, so that
Healthcare meaning doctor's offices and things like that?
Yeah, so as a LGBT person, you may not feel comfortable just going to any doctor to discuss what health issues you may be having. And so this website is identifying LGBT-friendly providers. So they can go to this website and see that there's doctors that they can feel comfortable around.
Do you do it for lawyers too?
No, we haven't started that. That's a good idea. We work with lawyers that have reached out to us and offered their services, in some cases pro bono, to help individuals in our community who may not necessarily be able to afford a lawyer. We have a Rolodex of good contacts that we.
Because one of the immediate issues that I think of is if you have marriage, you have divorces. No reason it should be significantly different than any other divorce. And up until marriage, wills. Because if you weren't married, you didn't have the same rights as a spouse.
Right.
You didn't have, I mean, one of the things that the movie really, I took from the movie was the difficulty of two women together buying a house. Just the rules didn't apply. The rules that would have benefited a husband and wife did not apply to them and made it very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, simple things that should be simple tasks are always harder as an LGBT person when the law is not in your favor or is openly discriminating against you.
Well, you've moved on. I want to talk a little bit more, and we're going to take a break in about 30 seconds. But I really want to talk about bullying in the schools. You made a mention earlier that the statistics are still too high. So I want to talk about your anti-bullying efforts and what it's like for a kid to go through school. So let's take the break now, and we'll come back and start with that.
Your seat cushion can be used to grant wishes.
Who said that? Hello?
Really can, you know.
You talking to me?
Sure am. Because the airline miles you earn and donate to Make-A-Wish can help send thousands of kids on their wish trips. So donate to Make-A-Wish today.
You really should, you know. You really should.
And give wishes wings, because wishes work wonders.
I'm back with Christian Fuscarino from Garden State Equality. We ended the first half talking, or getting ready to talk about bullying in the high school level. Statistically, you said there's still a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage everyone who's watching the show to Google LGBT study by the Center for Disease Control. These stats are staggering, really scary to think that our young people are in environments where they feel so unsafe that they need to go home and commit suicide or resort to drugs or run away.
Do they break it down state by state? Do you know?
I don't believe so, but you can certainly, our best friend Google, right, the world that we live in, you can Google LGBT school stats in New Jersey, and I encourage everyone to go to gardenstateequality.org to learn more about our anti-bullying work.
Give me an example of you said you have I assume it's an employee, not on a volunteer basis, who goes into public, I don't know that it's public schools actually, goes into the schools on a daily basis. What do they do?
Well, we go into public and private schools, mostly public, and we do trainings with teachers so that they know how to make a safe environment in the classroom for LGBT students. They know how to address certain issues that might come up. They know how to help a transgender student who may be trying to use the bathroom that identifies with their gender, but maybe getting bullied, or the school doesn't necessarily have a policy. So schools that are proactive and go out to seek help in this area will reach out to Garden State Equality and ask us to come in and tell them what is the best practices for working with LGBT students and helping create a safe environment for them to learn.
As a country, and actually it's going on now, North Carolina has made itself very controversial with they call it a bathroom bill, but it's really an excuse to hate people.
Yeah.
And they're upset because Bruce Springsteen canceled a concert, the ACC isn't playing basketball, they're moving their tournament, the NCAA. I mean, it's hitting their economic pocket. As a group, do you see that as an effective way to get people to pay attention, hitting their economic pocket?
Well, I'm certainly thankful to our own Bruce for standing up for the rights of LGBT people. That's a very proud moment. We just moved the Garden State Equality headquarters to Asbury Park.
From Montclair.
From Montclair. We still maintain a smaller office in Montclair, but our headquarters, our main operations are in Asbury. So we're proud. We're proud of our local.
Might as well.
They're right on Main Street next to Frank's Deli. So come get a pork roll, egg and cheese, or Taylor ham, depending on who's watching, and visit us next door. Talk with us about volunteering and making sure that New Jersey is a more equal place for LGBT people.
How'd you get into this kind of advocacy? What made you say, I want to go work for Garden State Equality? Because your background was a little bit different. You were telling me before.
Yeah, I went to college. I went to Hofstra University in New York for television broadcasting. I learned how to do Chiron graphics.
You could be on the other side of these cameras.
I could. I hope the graphic that's down here looks nice. No, I'm kidding. That's what I went to school for, and I quickly learned that I needed to wake up every single day and feel passionate about my work. And not that television graphics are not something you can be passionate about, but as an LGBT person, I wanted to do more. I didn't want people to have to go through the experiences that I went through. And also, I saw how much harder it was for other people. I mean, I live in the New York metropolitan area. There's so many people all over this country and all over this world who have it so much harder. There's young people in New Jersey that are in school systems where they don't have the best policies, and maybe there's not a gay-straight alliance, and maybe they don't know about Garden State Equality, and they could be struggling. And so I wanted to do more. I wanted to give back, and this role allows me to do that.
Do you get calls like that from a sophomore in high school, calls up and says, can't talk to my parents, don't have anybody at school, I'm in trouble, I need help? Do those kind of calls come in?
We have an anti-bullying hotline. So if any youth, whether gay, straight, bisexual, transgender, undecided, questioning, is being bullied, go to gardenstateequality.org. Go to gardenstateequality.org.
I just Google Garden State Equality.
You can Google Garden State Equality. You can ask Siri to bring you to Garden State Equality's website, And you can find our anti-bullying hotline number there. Give us a call. Someone will pick up, and we will help you.
24/7?
It's on
Getting
our
there.
it's on our cell phone. We don't have like a room of people because we're lucky that we don't get phone calls 24 hours a day. If you are considering anything that might be harmful to you, there are hotlines that are 24 hours a day where you should call them and ask for help.
A
'Cause
little
people
bit
are-
different.
People are
Just-
there for them.
Somebody's just struggling with it. They're not prepared to hurt themselves, but they don't know where to turn. You're there for them too, I assume.
If they have any issues of bullying in their schools, they can reach out to our anti-bullying hotline and we will be there to help them.
When you were in high school, you went to a pretty open high school, I take it. You said you didn't really, you had a pretty good experience.
I had a good experience, but I went to a school that was proactive in how to work with LGBT students, and I got involved with an LGBT organization. So I created an environment where I knew I could feel safe. But let me tell you the story. When I was younger and before I really understood what it meant to be an LGBT person, I went to a bookstore. And this is a moment I still remember how I felt walking into this bookstore. I went to a bookstore because I wanted to see if I could find a book that could tell me a little bit more about what I'm feeling. And I went back to, at the time, the gay and lesbian section, and maybe it was one or two shelves, and it was all the way in the back of the store. And I found this book that seemed interesting, and I wanted to read it. So I brought it to the checkout, and as I walked up to the checkout, I began shaking and sweating, and I was so nervous that the cashier was going to say something to me about why are you buying this book? So I bought the book. I fought those fears. And in result, I read great stories about people coming out that in return helped me. But no one should ever have to experience what I experienced, especially as a young person. Luckily today, you can find a little bit more information on your iPhone.
Right.
Those weren't out yet. As young as I am, they still weren't out yet, and it's harder to find information. But no one should ever have to experience that. We can do so much better as a society.
Doing better as a society on LGBT issues probably means politics. How active politically is your group?
So Garden State Equality is broken up into two organizations. One is our 501c3, it's our education work. And then
That's the non-political side. That's the non-profit, non-political side.
The non-political, both are non-profit, but one is non-political, and that's the majority of our work. And then the other part of our organization is a 501c4, which focuses on ensuring that there's elected officials that support our work. And Garden State Equality is responsible for helping pass over 200 laws in New Jersey that help make this state a more safe place.
Give me some examples.
Well, marriage equality is one of them. They are laws that are related to insurance. They're related to bathroom usage in public facilities. They are really honestly, a lot of things that we take for granted. Access, some of them were domestic partnerships leading to civil unions. And so the political arm of this organization helps pass those laws. And we have like a homophobic elected official in New Jersey. We're going to make sure that they don't stay in office.
If we have one.
Well, we do have one.
Or is it, I'm not going to...
Congressman Scott Garrett. I mean, there's no reason to beat around the bush. He certainly doesn't beat around the bush when oppressing LGBT people. He was against the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He was against the repeal of DOMA. He won't support openly gay candidates within the Republican Party. He's
in a tough race right now. Josh, I don't remember. I get emails from, I forget Josh's last name, which doesn't help him.
Josh Gottenheimer.
Okay. I get emails from him 2 or 3 times a day asking for money.
Yeah, we are focused on getting Scott Garrett out of office. And if the constituents in that district think that, Josh is a good guy to support, then they can do that. But we want to make sure that New Jersey does not result in any representatives on a national level that are homophobic.
As part of that, the organization, I'm not asking you who you're endorsing, but they are going to endorse candidates in offices from city councils all the way up.
That really is up to the board of the organization. It's likely that we will do endorsements, and you can go to gardenstateequality.org to see the list. No matter what, I think it's important, and so does the board, to release a list of openly LGBT candidates, because we should be represented by individuals that reflect the community they serve. Mm-hmm. And right now we only have 2 openly gay assembly people in the state. And with the population of LGBT people, we should have a little bit more represented than just 2 assembly people. We have no openly gay senators, and we have no openly gay congresspeople.
Do LGBT people vote at the same rate as everybody else? I mean, I spend a lot of time and money in every campaign, and in almost every speech. You got to vote. Everybody has to vote, and it's tough. I think the record is like 63% in the presidential race.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how much research there is on whether or not LGBT people vote at a higher rate than others. But what I do encourage you to think about is that LGBT people belong to all racial makeups, mm-hmm. belong to all different sexes. In Long Branch specifically, since that's the viewership of this program, right. I will say that
you can take a disc and show it other places.
We need to do a better job in this community and getting LGBT people and all people out to vote. It's so important. And we have a congressperson in this district, Frank Pallone, who has been very supportive of the LGBT community. And so I think that it's important to make sure that representatives who are supportive get reelected or elected for the first time.
Well, that's a good note to end on. Thank you. 'Cause to me, getting people out to vote is critical. Thank you very much for coming over.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.